Hi, and welcome to GLP's 10 out of 10. And today we have with us industry legend, let's call him, Steve Cohen. Steve has had an incredible career throughout at least 3 decades and counting of lighting and production design, for live concerts, television broadcasts, feature films, and a wide range of special events. His list of live touring credits includes a who's who of rock and roll. People like Van Halen, Elton John, Justin Timberlake, the Eagles, Lenny Kravitz, Christina Aguilera, and many more. He's also worked with Billy Joel for the past 40 years or so, and has become part of the record-breaking team that have created the longest residency in history at Madison Square Gardens in New York, and which continues to add shows to its run. Steve is also a fine artist and has had his work displayed at a number of exhibitions. He's won multiple awards for his work across the years and is truly, as I said, a legend of the entertainment lighting industry. Welcome, Steve Cohen.
Hello, Mark.
How are you?
I think that's, we can wrap it up now. I guess.
That's it. So we've got our 10 questions that we're asking everybody. So let's try and kick it off. Going back, way back to the beginning. What was your first show as a designer?
My first show as a lighting designer.
Yes.
Was a show at the Wilshire Ebell Theater on Wilshire Boulevard. Obviously, It's Magic. It was I think it was 1972, maybe.
Okay.
72. I was like 19 or 18. I had become friends with some people who, one of them happened to be the assistant for Harry Blackstone Jr., the magician. And they were doing a show, I think it was a benefit, and they asked me to, because I'd done high school theater, they asked me to light that show. And it was interesting because I lit that show, but I also learned how to hide some of the things that magicians don't like to be seen. So I learned how to use lighting to kind of misdirect your eye, kind of when I did those things. So that was my first show. I think it was my first professional show. I think I got paid $50.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Back in 1972. So across all of those years, across those 40 plus years, our next question is, what's the best or the worst, if you like, the Spinal Tap moment, or the most, kind of embarrassing situation that you're willing to tell us about?
I designed a set with my partner at the time, this guy Tom Strand up in San Francisco, for Don Henley, where the idea of the show was that it was a crashing in of styles of the Pueblo meets the San Fernando Valley Freeway overpass, because it was, Don Henley's southern, Texas roots mixed in with, him and being a California guy, and it missed the mark. Henley came in and I think Irving Azoff at the time, and they walked in and said, "Oh, we like it. It's fine. It's kind of weird, but it's okay." But I was kind of like cringing the whole time. I then did an updated version of that the next half of the tour, and the sound engineer at the time, great guy, Trip Califf, Clare Brothers sound engineer for Queen and all those people. Very boisterous, and he walked in and saw these new backdrops that I put in, and he said, "Wow, it looks like the men's room at the Casbah." Yeah.
Over the years, what do you think is the best piece of advice that anyone's ever given you, professionally or otherwise?
Well, I talk about this a lot, when I talk about my relationship with Billy Joel. I did that first tour with him, and I remember a couple of times where we would be sitting down talking about work and talking about, what he expected and about what, this whole thing was for all of us. And remember, we're playing high schools, we're playing college gymnasiums and theaters and small theaters and selling 1,200 seats and that kind of stuff. And he said to me that the most important thing is that you show up and do the best possible version of yourself, be the best possible version of yourself, do the best job you can. And then if you fuck up, own it, because it's much easier to get forgiven when you admit your faults.
Yeah.
And I think that work ethic, you know, that was the baseline of my work ethic and has been my work ethic ever since.
That's a fantastic piece of advice for sure. What would you say is your proudest achievement throughout your career so far?
There are 3 red letter things in my past, that red letter moments in my past. Certainly when we brought our show, the Billy Joel show, to the Soviet Union in the 80s, and we were the first big production to tour, you know, the 2 cities in Russia, and really, you know, become part of a cultural change. The other moment is clearly the closing of Shea Stadium. We did 2 shows with Billy Joel where we closed Shea Stadium, and we filmed it, and I shot a documentary about it. And so that whole experience was one of the prouder moments in all of our careers, in all of our working relationship. And funnily enough, this last Eagles show that I designed is a standout moment for me, because I have such history with Don Henley that to come back after the Eagles get reformed, after Glenn passed away, to be able to be handed that job with some very, shall we say, opinionated and specific artists. I'm pretty proud of that.
That's pretty phenomenal. All 3 examples. I mean, spanning generations, but also spanning, as you said, culture-defining moments as well, which is brilliant. What do you do in your downtime amongst all these shows?
I paint.
Right.
I cook. I live a life. You know. I mean, I'm very fortunate. My life has, my career has developed at a pace that has, for the most part, paralleled my life and the way I like to live my life. My downtime now is just living life, and I'm in a position where I can really enjoy it. So
yeah, just be relaxed and enjoy the time away from. You've worked obviously around the world and so many different venues. Is there one venue that particularly stands out as being a favorite?
Yeah, Madison Square Garden, hands down. Yeah. Hands down. Madison Square Garden is the center of the rock and roll touring universe to me. Right. I've seen shows there from my earliest, my 20s, and my first real arena gig was a show there that I got hired at the last minute by the promoter, and I was 22 or 23, I think, at the time, and the head of the IBEW took me under his wing, and the head of the IA took me under his wing, and Patrick, the great icons of the industry, Patrick Stansfield and Michael Ahern were part of the promoter team, and they said, "Hey, stick with us, kid. We'll teach you how to do this the right way." And the Garden became my home, really my home arena. Right. Billy's done 100 and Billy Joel has done 120 some odd, or 118 shows lifetime, and I've been there for every one of them. Right. But I've probably done 40 or 50 shows there with other. I've probably done 160, 170 shows in that building, and nothing feels like that building.
Yeah, it is absolutely landmark venue. Yeah, good choice. Obviously, so much is going on at the moment with the lockdown, and you're spending a lot of time indoors and everything, with presumably some music as well. Is there one artist or one record that you would absolutely always want to have with you if you have to go through this again?
Oh yeah, Frank Sinatra live at the Sands.
Okay, great.
I could put that on and it could play in a loop forever.
Great, that's it. That didn't take long to answer that one. Didn't take long to think about. Wow. Okay, so spinning way back into the start of your career. If you could wind time back and go and talk to the teenage Steve Cohen and give him one piece of advice, what would that be?
I tell him not to worry about it.
Mm.
I spent a lot of time in my youth in fear of what was going to happen and thinking that it would, all evaporate. I started in an industry that didn't have any rules. It didn't have much history, and who knew how long it was going to last? And I spent a lot of time worrying about that, and
Right.
and I think I wasted a lot of time worrying about that, and I think I probably drank too much because of all of that. So that's what I would tell myself. I've thought about this. Would I do it differently? No, I wouldn't do it differently. I mean, this is my life, and it unfolded, the way it unfolded, and I've had, ups and downs, but it's all been a ride that I wouldn't trade for anything.
That's the best answer then. Absolutely, no regrets.
No.
If you had the opportunity to sit down with one person for a cup of coffee and a conversation, somebody alive or dead, who would you choose?
I think Leonard Bernstein.
Okay. Right.
I think that his mind was. I would love to look into his eyes and see that passion. Yeah, I think he's, I think he's one of those people. He's an enigma to me. He's a conductor that ingests the classics, and interprets them better than any conductor, I think, alive or dead.
Right.
And then he can turn around and write West Side Story. Like, where is that? You listen to West Side Story today, and it is the most complex and subtle piece of music ever, and it just keeps unfolding like a great piece of art, and I keep hearing things that I've never heard before. So yeah, I think he was a great character, and I think he was probably full of life. Right. And he comes from an era that I really sort of wish I was born into. I really wanted to live through the 40s and 50s. So as an adult. So yeah, I think that's who I would, if I was to pick one.
Right. It's a tough question, but good choice. Good choice. We were up to our final question already. And this one, yeah, I know it doesn't take long. This one's just a bit of a fun one, an off the wall one. So you're going to get a phone call in a minute from the US Olympic team. And they're going to call you up, and it could be for the winter games or it could be for the summer games. But the question is, what sport are they going to call you up for? What's the one thing you'd ever go at?
God, I hope they don't call. I can't do anything. I can't throw a ball. I can't hit a golf club. What sport would they would call me? They would call me up to be a commentator for, the luge so I could make jokes. I mean,
All right. There we go. All right. So commentator. We'll take that as a commentator then.
Commentator. Yeah,
coming off with the team spirit. Steve, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for finding some time for us. We really appreciate it. And it's been wonderful to talk with you. And I look forward to seeing you again in person very soon.
Yeah. Thank you for everything. I look forward to, shining lights in people's eyes again. I mean, I miss that. So
that's right. I'm sure they do too. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye.